All right, hello everybody. I'm Crazyguitarman, and today we're going to be going over some box fighting techniques. So there's kind of a lot of stuff to go over. The first thing I want to go over is the parts of a box fight. I feel like there's about 5 different sections that you could actually get really into focusing on. So the first part of box fighting that I would say is probably the most obvious and the most pronounced thing is right hand peek. And that's basically just a simple fact that if you peek out the right side of a wall, then you're able to see your opponent much earlier than they can in certain situations. The whole reason for that is because Fortnite's camera is on the right side and the right shoulder. She could see me, like my arm poking out, obviously, but the more I back up, the less she'll be able to actually see me. So I'm able to see you right here. She has to poke out pretty far back. Yeah. So from there, she's able to see me, but I'm not. And that's all box fighting is about. It's about like finding ways of abusing that right hand peek. The next part of box fighting is having fast edits, or just editing in general, and knowing which edit to do. One of the examples of a wrong edit is something like this. This is kind of a very terrible example.
I love that edit.
Obviously, she could see me. There's no cover to be had here. She doesn't have cover either. But if she has a shotgun, which she does, she could just shoot me, because there's a little bit of a delay. When you edit, you can't shoot immediately after.
That's what I call the alpha edit, because somebody is obviously very alpha if they feel like they can do that and just win.
Now, an example of the proper edit is something like this, where I could shoot her feet. She could shoot my feet too, but like if I go back a little bit more, I could see her head. Can you see mine?
Yeah, I know I can't at all.
Yeah. Or doing something like this, where I could still kind of get that right hand peek before she can see me. You almost never want to edit like this, where you're giving them the right hand peek. Like I can't see her head, but she could shoot me for free here.
Oh yeah.
So there's always right edits that you want to do, and you also want to get really fast with those edits to where you get it reset really fast to really just confuse your opponent.
I just confuse myself if I edit too fast. I'm like, wait, what am I doing?
Another thing about editing is usually you want to make sure you're in cover before you confirm it, because if she is looking at me with a shotgun and I confirm it, then she's gonna get the shot off. But if I'm hiding in cover first, she has to do a little bit more, and it gives me time to actually take the shot, and now we're on even ground. One example of that is if you're doing the Canada Classic here, which I'll explain later. If I'm right here and I edit it, she's just gonna shoot me. Instead, you'll want to be right next to this before you confirm, and then you go for whatever you're trying to do. As for more specific edits that you do when you have this wall, this top right corner edit is pretty good because you get these jump shots. You only show yourself for a second. You could also edit this way if you're trying to place builds in here, like if you're trying to get this ramp and then, you know, get that in, and then you could go over that shot. One of the more fancier edits that some people are doing now is the Canada Classic. You edit this way and stand right next to this wall, and then from here you could either go for a jump shot or you could go for this side. And it confuses people, as you can count here, because it's such a small edit. It's such a small thing, but you have good cover here. You have right hand peek.
Yeah.
If you crouch, they can't see you, even if they jump up.
I guess if I go like this, then it'd be kind of a bad thing. I could just like jump at you.
Yeah, but then I could just place a trap.
Like a dog. It's actually kind of fun.
It's kind of like how some people are like doing this for a little bit and then peeking from here. But it's a little bit better because you get the jump shot and you get the right hand peek.
Yeah.
If you do want to get faster at edits and learn the proper ones, I would suggest any edit courses. Raider 464 has a few good ones. I've been practicing a lot. No. No.
You look so fucking stupid.
This is the real power of editing. If you want to be able to edit really fast, there's 2 things you could do. You could either do 2 edit binds, and I have mine on shift and my DPI shift button right here on my mouse. So then that way, instead of having to mash one button, instead it's more like playing a piano chord if you have 2 different edit binds. The alternative is having scroll wheel reset, which basically I don't have it, but instead of having to hit 3 different keys to reset this, what you do is you change scroll wheel up or down to edit, and then also edit reset. The first scroll will grab it, and then the next edit will reset and let go of it at the same time. And that allows you to just look at something and scroll, and it's instantly resetted. The third part of box fighting, I would say, and it's kind of a smaller part, but has its place, is phasing. It's always a risk factor that you have to assess when you are phasing. Basically, it allows you to get into people's boxes, even though they're building. And then at that point, you
Get
pump
out of
them in
my
the
house.
face and hope that they don't tell you to get out of their house or have a trap. It's definitely a good idea to learn phasing, but it's not a good idea to do it every single time because you're probably gonna get trap killed a lot. You're probably just gonna get shot a lot, but it does have its place.
I just know how floppy the paper is when you like move it a lot. Like when you jump around a lot, and look how floppy the paper is.
Oh yeah, what the
Or
fuck?
like building.
I
like,
never
it's
noticed
so
that.
floppy. What the fuck?
So the fourth piece of box fighting is piece control, pun intended. It's just the practice of trying to get as many pieces of a box that you can. So she's completely protected here. All that she has to do to block from my spray or whatever I do is just hold the wall. And
It still hits me though because my ping sucks.
And that's another thing, ping, but you can't really help with that. I can't trap her. If I go into her box anyway, then she could trap me. Piece control is trying to take their wall as soon as I get the wall. Jeez. Coin flip, by the way.
You got it.
Yeah, from here I could shoot her. But the thing is, like, she could also just protect herself with a ramp. So good piece control is trying to take this ramp first. So as soon as I get this edit, instead of trying to shoot her, I could take this myself and then, you know, give her like bad angles and stuff. Sometimes she'll get trapped in there, sometimes she'll be on this side, and at that point you could edit this way and stuff like that. Piece control gives you a lot of options. Instead of like just simply going for a shot, instead of doing that, I could take this wall first and then edit and then go for the shot. So then that way she can't really protect herself. Or even going further, grabbing this wall, editing it, and then trapping her. You know, there's a lot that you could do with piece control. Also, if she were to do the same thing to me, if she were to try to trap me, I could grab this wall before she can, instead of just trying to run away. And then at that point, if I edit fast, then I'm free. There's a lot of stuff that piece control gives you in a box fight, and it's probably one of the more important things and one of the more tougher things to learn. So the last thing for box fighting, mind games. One example of this that I'll show a little bit more in depth later is if she has her shotgun out, she's probably waiting for me to edit something like this and then just take the shot. But if you could predict that, and lots of box fighting is prediction and forcing them into stuff that you could take advantage of, is doing something like editing and then resetting. So then if she tries to take that shot, then she just kind of breaks the wall.
Then I waste my shot, and then with the pump, it's
exactly.
Wait.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that kind of goes hand in hand. This is just one example, but there's you know, if she was in a box, one thing that I could do is place floors above her in different sides, to where if I am pressuring this side and I do get the wall, if she wants to run away into the next box, well, this is already mine, and I could just go over the top of it and edit it before she knows that it's not hers. So there's 3 different ways I would say to define a box fight. One of them is whether you're the aggressor in a box fight, the person who's trying to get into the box, or the defensive side, the person who's holding the box. The other way to define it is like whether you're high, low, or middle ground. So the last way that I would define a box fight is whether you're the mobile person or whether you're a stationary person, and it more so applies to if you're the person trying to get into a box. For the most part, someone's going to be stationary in their box. Sometimes they'll tunnel out, but on your end, if they are stationary, you could either be mobile yourself and pressure multiple walls, you know, this kind of a thing, going back and forth, and there's a few practices that you could do there. Or alternatively, you could be in your own box trying to take their own wall, and certain things work here that wouldn't work in a mobile box fight. The first general tip that I have for you guys has to do with trap placement. What lots of people will do and have done for a long time is placing traps on the left and right side of walls after they get somebody in under their box like this. That's good for some reasons, because if you get both down, then they're going to take damage in some kind of way. But what lots of people do nowadays is they'll run to the left or right side. What happens there is they just don't take the damage from the trap, and they could either break a trap that's placed on this side quickly before it goes off because there's a bit of delay, or they can just avoid if you only place one trap. Now they're still in a shitty situation, but what's even better is if you have someone trapped, placing a trap on the ceiling. If I head this away, then it hits her. And same thing with the floor as well. If I place something, if I place a trap on the floor, then if I have this ramp at least, then I can just rotate it this way, and then she'll take damage. A lot of people don't even realize that a trap is placed on the ceiling or floor because they're too focused on getting out from one of the walls. And also it uses one less trap to guarantee a hit. It's good to place ones on the wall as well as the ceiling before, just to confirm a kill. But other than that, if you can, try to place it on the floor or ceiling as much as you can, and then just edit this ramp, or, you know, probably don't even need to place ramp sometimes. The next tip that I have is just watching your opponent. Basically what they're holding, where they are, whether they're low HP, whether they're healing, all that stuff has a huge effect on box fights. If she has her gun out and I have this wall, I probably don't want to edit this because she's probably just going to shoot me. But if she has her build plans out, I could probably edit this and take the shot because she thinks she has a wall, or she's trying to do something. Maybe she's trying to edit. There's a lot of things. Or if she's facing away, maybe someone's shooting her wall on the other side. That's basically a free chance for me to shoot her or to take her wall or anything, or phase in. So watching your opponent is a huge aspect of box fighting. Another general tip is paying attention to build's health. If this was like 1 HP, I could go for the pickaxe. But another thing that I could do is either just spray through it if she's trying to build, or instead I can wait for her to pull her shotgun out, and instead of doing that, I could just shoot it and take the wall. That also has to do with watching your opponent and seeing what they do, but there's a lot of things that you can do with paying attention to the build health, and that has to do with defending as well. If your wall is pretty low HP, you probably shouldn't trust it that much. The other general tip that works for pretty much all box fights is using this half ramp. You want to edit to where it's facing towards you and you're under the left side. And from here, you get this really nice right-hand peek. Whether they've taken your wall and you think they're going to push in, or they're just going to go for a shot, or if you're trying to take their wall, I could hit it almost without even getting out of cover.
Like, I can't even really see you at all. You can hit your feet. That's
it. And that's the thing. It gives you a lot of options for either taking shots or taking walls. Some general stuff for offensive tips is spamming through builds. Because they changed replacing build speed from 0.05 to 0.15, it's a lot easier to spam through builds, especially with something like a P90. So if something's about to break here, you could either just straight up spray through there and it'll probably get some damage like that in, or you could even wait until maybe she's gonna try to build a different way, or she's gonna try to go for an edit or something like that. At that point, you could just spray, and you know, if she's not paying attention, she'll probably take a lot of damage. One other thing is using weapons to replace builds, which kind of goes with spamming a little bit. So attack shotguns, whether they're purple or gold, they either do the same or more damage than a pickaxe. So pickaxes do 75. It takes 2 hits to break a wood wall, but this gold tack will do a little bit more. I could take a wall all the way from back here, just like that. It telegraphs a lot less compared to a pickaxe, because when you are pickaxing a wall, you have to sit here and you can kind of see when the pickaxes are coming, and people will time that.
People aren't prepared for that to hit the wall.
Exactly.
They're prepared for the shotgun to hit them rather than the build.
Exactly. And if you do something like pickaxing and then shooting the wall, or if you shoot the wall and then pickaxe, people might not even be able to react to that kind of thing. Another thing is just pressuring from multiple sides. It's kind of more of a basic tip, but if you get their cone low, and you get this wall low, and you get this wall low, and all of a sudden you're right here, you could take either their cone or their wall. They end up having to turbo build their entire box constantly, and you're going to get one of those pieces at some point a lot easier, even if they are hyping and you're loping. Another thing is normally you want to place a ramp in their box to prevent them from placing their own. But if you're above them and you take their cone, you take their floor. If you place a ramp, it could work and blocks them like that, but then you have to edit. However, if you place a cone in there, then they're either phasing through it or they have no cover and they're kind of a little bit higher on your level. One other thing when you're fighting somebody is if you're trying to take their wall, what a lot of people do is they'll build a ramp instead of their wall, and they'll try to edit out the top. Now, she has high ground over me, and she could just crank 90s and get mega height over me and get some good shots. But one thing you could do is while you're trying to take this wall, if you see that, just place a wall there, and they'll get blocked. And if you're fast enough, you can even place a ramp of your own, head through. And before she's able to either retreat back into your box or go out the side, you're probably gonna get a good shot if you're quick enough. Phasing is good, but only when you really need to get that kill really quick. Just any situation where they're vulnerable and you need to get the kill quick. Because as you might see what happens if I do phase into her box, she could just easily trap me, and I might be able to get this ramp. But she might place first, and then I'm dead. And also I'm in her box, so I have no escape option. literally all I can do is pray that I kill her before she kills me. It's useful, but it's also pretty dangerous. So that's where you gotta kind of pick your battles there. So now for the more basic defensive tips. If she's spraying through my wall, or her own wall in this case, it doesn't really matter. What you can do is go for a shotgun shot and then replace it quickly. She's probably still going to be trying to spray me, and she might hit me once, but I get a much cleaner shot on her with the shotgun. Another tip is to move into a new box if you lose too many pieces. So right now she has my wall. I could just place a ramp, but there's a chance that she could just take my ramp, that kind of thing. Definitely place this ramp, but you also might want to think about editing out the side and making a new box, because then it basically resets the fight. At this point, she doesn't have any of my stuff. She's now in my box too, so it adds a lot of different angles, different situations, and kind of resets the fight in a way. So the last tip that I have that works for all defensive situations is baiting with a heal of some kind, especially if it's some kind of longer heal, like a health kit. If you start popping this, they're probably going to try to start breaking the wall, but that's when you either hold the wall or you edit, except she took it too quick. So if you start popping that healing item and she starts trying to take the wall, then you can get anyway, you could edit a bit faster than she might be expecting, and at that point then you could get a free shot and then reset. It adds a few possibilities, and that's kind of the big brain thinking of mind games with box fighting. Maybe that's why I don't use heal baits that often.
Yeah, it can be a little bit risky.
Yeah, I feel like with fully built metal, it's probably a little bit better. So for the more specific tips, this stuff will have to do with if you are high ground. If you're trying to take someone's wall from high ground, one of the more fancier things I've seen recently, Booga did this by accident, and I'm not sure if it's actually an accident. I feel like it could be a thing, but what he did is he took the cone and floor, went for a shot, they traded shots, but he tried to block with a stair. Normally you could block with this floor or this wall, but it's kind of hard to get that if you're too close. But this ramp, if you jump on top of it and you have this cone, after you've taken that shot, you could reset and then edit yourself down into it. So if I edit through, take the shot, and then I'm here. Especially if you hit the first shot, they're probably going to die, and they're probably not going to expect you to fall in like this either. Another thing is by placing a wall here, you could place this door edit. At this point now, I'm completely protected. No matter what she does, even if I open these up, I have this cover that I got behind, and it's also right hand peek. I'm guessing you can see me a little bit, yeah?
I can see your gun.
Oh, okay, so you can't see me at all. Okay. Well, then,
No.
yeah, this is a little bit better than I thought. You could take these completely free, because even if she edits open, I am still behind cover. And on top of that, if you edit this way, you can also take the wall. And they're probably not expecting that if you're built up on high ground like this. One other way of taking stuff from high ground, and I only say this is high ground because you kind of start from a high ground position, is placing this ramp like this. And then from here, you jump back on the cone and pressure it. You could go to a different wall. The way to use this is by staying up here. So then if she does edit open and try to take a shot, I can just place a wall here to protect myself. And I can continue to open up, and then if she tries to take a shot, I can edit again, all that stuff. It's a little tricky though, because the only time you could hit this wall is if you get close enough. I think it's right here about. And at that point, you're phasing through, and you do have to jump, but it gives you a little bit less time to jump. That's where it's nice to be able to replace stuff with your guns, because from here, I can replace a wall. The only caveat to that is that you have to aim down a little bit, because you might place a wall there. This position is also pretty good, because if she does do that cone edit thing, it's really easy to place this wall to cancel her out, and then, you know, obviously do the edit, and then take the shot if she's up here. Now, the last thing that you could do to get into their box is using explosives. So there's two ways of doing this. You could either use an RPG to shoot this corner. I would suggest jumping from this corner and then doing it. You just gotta make sure you clear the top of this, but that gives a little bit of extra distance so that the explosion radius doesn't actually hit you. So you just stand right here and then shoot the corner. Because it's right here. Okay, that one worked. So what you do is you stand here and then you shoot the corner. Ah, it keeps hitting me, shit. So you stand over here and then shoot the corner, and then you shouldn't take damage from it. It's kind of a weird placement. It's kind of hard to do sometimes. That's why I recommend doing the jump thing. Now, another way to do it, which is a little bit safer, if you have grenades, you could just place one in the corner here, and then it should let you right on in. And the other thing that you could do instead of just going for the shot here, you could decide to try to take as much of the box yourself. So that way you have that safe option. You have traps that you could place. You could get those shots, and you could also, you know, get out if it's too hairy of a situation.
I'm not hairy.
You're not hairy? Oh, you have a lot of hair.
Maybe I am hairy.
So one other thing that you could do to phase into their box from high ground is if you're standing on their cone and you're against this wall, if she's turbo building and I break this, you actually end up inside of the cone. And they might notice that immediately, and that just gives you free reign to break their floor and get into their box. So as for defending from high ground in a box fight, the only thing I could really think of is doing this floor edit. If you do this, then half the floor does protect you, and you get a nice jump shot like this on people, and you only show up for a split second. Other than that, the only time people are going to try to pressure you from below is either just by spraying through your floor or trying to take high ground, or maybe they'll go up into this part of their box and try to take your wall, but at that point it's more of a neutral box fight. So the first thing I want to go over for defending when you're in the neutral ground box fight is if you have this ramp and you either want to take a shot or you think they're going to take a shot, what you could do is you flip your ramp this way and you stand against this back wall completely to where you're touching it, then flip it back. And then from here, if she opens up, to her it's gonna look like I'm behind the ramp because I'm not here. But you can't see my feet. That's the only part that you can actually
It's hard to notice though, honestly.
Exactly. Everyone's gonna be looking for where the head is. From here I could take this shot.
And if you go to my left too, since I'm like so close to my wall here, my player model actually blocks your feet, so I don't really see you.
That's another thing.
Yeah.
Like I always forget that player models are a thing as well. I guess that just gives right hand peek a little bit more of an advantage too. There's this peek method that you edit this spiral staircase and you have to kind of jump up to get it to land. It gives you a pretty nice right hand peek here.
And like your face is kind of blocked by the piece of the stair
Yeah,
too.
exactly. So the nice thing about this edit is that once you do take the shot, if you want to protect yourself, all you gotta do is reset the ramp and you fall under it, and now you're protected completely. One other thing that you can do while you're defending is this edit reset bait, and this kind of works generally, but works especially well for neutral fights because you can see each other better. So you just edit and then reset instantly, and then she's gonna go for that shot, and then I go for a shot right afterwards. It kind of just creates that time delay, and then you could just put the wall back right afterwards. The last thing from a defensive standpoint is if they don't have any builds placed, like if she didn't have this floor, one thing you could do is just trap them without even leaving your box. So if I place that floor, place a trap, she's just done for. I guess this isn't too general of one for neutral ground, but it's another one that works more in neutral ground.
I forgot it was there.
When you're on the offensive in neutral ground, probably the most common thing that you want to do is the Mongol Classic. It's basically when you take this wall and then you place this ramp in it this way. And it's good for a few reasons. You still have control over the whole thing. If she's right here, I could play this side. And if she's inside of this thing, you could either just go into their box, which hopefully they don't place a trap, but you could get these easy shots if they're low and if you're feeling risky. Or you could just simply edit the thing on the other side and she still has no cover. To go along with that, anytime that you're in this neutral ground perspective or even high ground or low ground, you should definitely have a wall here that you could hide behind. It's always a good idea to have a wall that you can retreat in, or a box that you can retreat in, as well as one that you're pressuring from. I think it's my map. Oh god, that was a bad one.
That was really
That
bad.
was really bad. So if you're in more of a stationary fight, doing this half ramp peak gives you a lot of cover. Is more of a neutral thing, but it can apply to high ground as well, or not so much low ground. But I like to take walls this way a lot, preferably because you could just take it without actually exposing yourself, and you can still place builds and get this whole thing done without actually being seen by the person too much. The probably last resort thing is using a phase to get into someone's box. What you could do here is hit their wall once till it's 1 HP. And what you do is you have either a full ramp or this half edited ramp. This is just a little bit nicer because you could jump out on top of it in case you need to. But what you do is you time your pickaxe swing with hitting your head on top of this. A little bit like that. Anytime you do phases, you want to go quick because you're kind of in an exposed position, and if they know what you're doing, they're just going to shoot you. So full speed, it looks a little bit more like this, and then you shoot them. So another way to get in is by editing your floor this way and just walking into the wall and hitting it. There's a certain angle that you have to meet. You're basically walking to this corner, but it allows you to just walk in. And if she has a ramp on in there, if you approach it from this side, you're actually phasing through the wall, and it really does not look like you are at all. So they're probably going to keep on turbo building, but you get a free shot here. So one thing that you can do when you're on low ground is if she decides to take my cone and my floor, what you could do is you can even edit your way to do this. You stand next to this wall, and when she opens up, you get this shot. She could barely see me from there. She has to stand way over to be able to see me. Can you see me now?
I can see you right here.
Okay, so at this point, it's kind of a 50-50. She has a slight headshot advantage over me, but if she's back any further, I could see her and I can kind of predict where she's going to be, and I only show up for a second. And a lot of people don't expect that kind of thing to happen. Another thing that you could do is once they open this up, you could look away and then place a ramp over yourself for a little bit more protection. On top of that, if you're trying to take a shot at them, you could edit the ramp for this half ramp and go for this left hand peek on them. If they're on top of your cone, you could actually just edit them in, and then at this point they're stuck in your box, and you could trap them. You could ramp over them.
So I never do that because I'm like too scared that it's gonna happen to me.
Yeah. It still can work out if you get the ramp first or the cone first, but it's still kind of monk ass. One thing you could do if they're pressuring you from this ramp that I showed earlier, if they haven't placed that roof above them and you notice that they're standing kind of close to your wall, this is why that roof is so important. You can place the trap right above them here, and then at that point you could just box them in. The only exception to this one is that they have to be a little bit lower on the ramp, otherwise they'll just phase through it. As for being the offensive side, when you're low ground, the only thing I could think of is if you're crazy enough, the best thing you can really do is one, box yourself in completely so they don't trap you, and also having this ramp here so then you could kind of take their wall from cover in case they do try to come in and shoot you down or anything. The only other thing, if you're pressuring from this side from low ground, is just basically being prepared to reset it. There's honestly not a whole lot that you can do from low ground, so it's always better to either pressure from a wall from the same height or from high ground. So there'll be a lot of times when people are pressuring you from this ramp and they've dropped down and there's nothing beneath them, and they're only connected by this ramp. They haven't placed their floor beneath them. One thing that you can do is edit your wall like this, or your floor like this, and then edit your wall away like this to where it breaks and they fall to the ground. You'll at least get maybe a little bit of damage, but more importantly, I'll get them off of your back for a second. So there's a lot of stuff with box fighting that's continually still being found out and stuff that's still being tested. Some of the stuff might be out of meta at some point because people expect it, kind of like this corner edit. Honestly, it might get you shot sometimes, but it's still kind of a good edit to do. It's all about mind games, and if people don't expect something, then go for it. And that's where lots of the new stuff is coming from. Oh, hey, perfect.